7:15 right now. Next week on Monday, about a dozen people are going to go on trial in federal court in Seattle, Washington. They're going to be charged with racketeering. All are alleged members of a white supremacy group, what many are calling a hate group. They're charged with bank robbery, counterfeiting, plotting murder. Doug Seymour knows something about such organizations. In 1979, when he was a reserve police officer in San Diego, he infiltrated the Ku Klux Klan. He served as a bodyguard for an admitted Klan member who ran for Congress at the time. Since his cover was blown, he has made it a rather personal crusade to tell what he learned about the Klan and other white supremacy groups. Irwin Suall is director of fact-finding for the Anti-Defamation League here in New York City. This organization monitors the activities of many different groups, as I've described. I talked with both men earlier this morning. I started by asking Mr. Seymour, based on his personal experience, how he would describe the Klan.
I think that for the most part, they're amount to a roving gang of individuals with isolated groups across the United States, and that's really a fairly accurate description.
To accomplish what? What are they, again, based on your personal experience with them, trying to accomplish?
They firmly believe that they will overthrow the government of the United States and replace it in its present form, and do away with all ethnic groups, Jews, blacks, and take over power. Their chant is, we're coming to power.
All right, what examples did you see that would back up that kind of charge? Because that's a serious charge.
I think the examples that I seen was in 1979, I attended a national leadership conference in Metairie, New Orleans. And at that conference, the various powers that are in charge of the various organizations laid down the foundation for some of the things that we have seen transpiring in the last a few years, some of which...
like what?
Combination of murder, robbery, counterfeiting.
Okay,
basically,
can you, you know, you're a reserve police officer. Those also are serious charges. Can you back those up? Can you prove those? Can these be independently verified that these acts have been perpetrated by Klan members?
These members, I identified them early on, right after, it was a few months after Alan Berg was assassinated in Colorado. And then the Brinks robberies took place in Seattle and Oregon. And ultimately, I believe it was around October of 1984 when I was shown photographs and identified 4 of 9 of the people as being the perpetrators of those crimes, and they were directly associated from my tenure with the Department Underground with the Klan. And some of them were Nazis, some of them were Klansmen, all under the name of the Aryan nations as we see it today.
Mr. Suall, to what extent do you believe these organizations across the country are tied together in some way?
There's real cross-fertilization among a number of far-right extremist groups, including the Klan, various neo-Nazi groups, other groups that go under the name of Christian identity. It's cross-fertilization. There are some links. But we have to be careful not to portray this problem as if there were a well-organized national conspiracy. Right. There isn't that sort of thing.
All right, how great is the problem? How much worse is it today, if it is? I don't want to put words in your mouth. How much worse is it today than it was, say, 10 years ago, or 20, or 30, or 50 years ago?
Well, each of those 10, 20, and 30, 50 years ago are quite different. The problem is a little easier today than it was 10 years ago in terms of mass influence. The Klan and the various neo-Nazi groups have declined somewhat in strength in the past several years. But paradoxically, the decline has also resulted in an increase in violence. Mainly, I would say, because they become desperate at their inability to influence any large number of Americans. The American people, by and large, simply don't buy this kind of extreme radicalism.
How many people are we talking about?
Altogether, the Klan, perhaps 6,000 to 6,500, according to the Anti-Defamation League's most recent tally. And other racist and extremist right-wing groups, perhaps another 3,500, for a total of about 10,000. hardcore. In addition, there are perhaps as many as 100,000 total in the country who are sympathetic, who will give some money, attend a rally, but not actually join.
What can be done about it? You said that Americans, by and large, don't agree with this kind of radicalism. What can we do about it? What can society do about it? What can the law do about it? The government do about it?
There are a number of things. Most important of all, the reason people turn radical is that they become desperate about their life's conditions. And to the extent that the country is in a healthy state, the economy is in a healthy state, people have confidence in the future, they don't join radical groups, and therefore the basic job is a job that's good for all of us, that is, keep the country in a healthy state. But in addition to that, it's very important to engage in appropriate, vigorous law enforcement whenever the law is broken, and that's the most serious problem posed by these extremist groups. They do engage in criminal behavior, and therefore vigorous law enforcement of the right kind. I'm not talking about vigilantism. I'm talking about appropriate law enforcement under constitutional safeguards has to be conducted, and I must say that the FBI and other police agencies in the country have done a splendid job in that regard in recent years.
Irwin Suall of the Anti-Defamation League. Coming up in our next half hour, we're going to talk about a totally different subject. We are very fortunate here in many ways on Good Morning America to talk with people who are pioneers, talk with people who do what they do better than anybody else, many times better than anybody in the world. Tomorrow, for instance, we're going to talk with